All right, guys, I am so thrilled to be doing this podcast with a very, 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 very good friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, the one and only, the best main person and title the city has ever seen, the one and only Patricia Martinez. Patricia, thank you so much for being with us.
No, and thank you for inviting me. I love your place. I'm so thrilled that I was able to do this with you because, of
Thank you.
course, I feel the same. Our feelings
Thank
are
you.
mutual. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're gonna start doing these podcasts and stuff, and I wanted to have the first one to be Patricia. So I'm very happy that she said yes to joining us today. And to celebrate that we have her in the house today, we're gonna be drinking a day. It's called Day of the Dead. It's a red wine by local winery Mesilla. It's by Mesilla Valley at the Sombra Antigua. So whenever you get a chance, swing by and check him out. So, Patricia, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about you, about Stewart Title. How long have you been doing this? How long have you been in the community?
I have been at Stewart Title for 22 years. And of course, Stewart Title has been in El Paso since 1893. So we
18.
do have our own title plant, which we have all the old records. So we still have the microfilm cards that you have to go take to the machine. And the reason we have those is if at any time we couldn't pull any of those documents at the courthouse, they weren't available, or maybe the courthouse was down, their system was down, we have them there. We have the old plat maps. So we have a lot of history at our downtown office. We have the very old owner's title policies. So you're welcome to come into
Yes.
that office and just take a look around it. We have a lot of history in that office.
Nice. She did say 1893.
1893.
Yeah, I've been to this downtown office a few times. It's a beautiful office, but they have a lot of memorabilia, a lot of title, original, still documents from back in the day. Super cool if you guys ever have a chance to go out there. And it's very important to work with a title company that has been around and is not going anywhere. Patricia and I have had a couple of horror stories, but one of those, it was, I was going to get a listing on a house, and the seller had closed with a different title company. We won't mention names, but this company went out of business. Somehow in the paperwork, one of the items had not been paid off, or the proper documentation wasn't there. We tried to get the documents. Patricia helped me out. By the time we got everything settled away, the property went into foreclosure. So it's very important to work with a company that is reputable and that has been around in our market and is not going anywhere. And Stewart Title, with 100 and almost 30 years,
Yes.
we can say that it's not going anywhere. So salute to that.
Thank you.
So I wanted to make the podcast so that we can explain a little bit more about what you guys do. What is title policy? What is Stewart? Tell us a little bit more about what title policy is.
Okay, so what we do, our end product is actually the owner's title policy to protect the buyer against any liens, any misrecorded documents at the courthouse, any affidavits of heirship. So we make sure that everything's good to go, so we can go ahead and produce the final product to the new buyer, so that there's no liens in the property. And this insurance is different because what we do is we protect from the date of closing back.
Okay.
So anything that happens in the future, that's something we don't protect.
Correct.
But we insure anything that happened before that closing.
Okay.
So we make sure that all taxes, all liens, all releases have been filed, have been paid for.
Okay. So for a lack of a better word, you guys ensure that the title is a clean title. Nobody else has rights. So just in case, let's say, the uncle, neighbor, nephew says that he is a son of, this person and he has rights to the property, you guys would insure something like that, correct?
Exactly, and that's what
Okay.
we would do, and that's one of the biggest reasons that we're very conservative. That's one of the biggest reasons we ask all those questions, especially when they're doing an affidavit of heirship. And I tell you right up front, I want to talk to your customer. We're gonna go ahead and get your customer to talk to that attorney. That way, they can ask all the questions. They can answer all the questions. And sometimes they get a little bit upset because we're so, we want to know all the details of family and who, is the survivors. And so we do that, but we tell you up front, we're going to ask all these questions.
Right. So basically, if anyone comes in and says, I own that house, or my uncle owns that house, or whatever, you would cover that. and the seller wouldn't, the new owner of the house wouldn't be bothered because you guys are
Correct.
guaranteeing the green title.
Correct. And a lot of the times, of course, in the past, like 98% of the time, the seller pays for that owner's title policy. A lot of the times I have the agent telling me, well, they're asking, why are they responsible? Why do they have to pay for that owner's title policy? The biggest reason is nobody's ever going to go look for them because Stewart Title was the one that insured the property. So if they have to file a claim, it would have to be filed with Stewart Title.
Okay. Who chooses a title company?
Okay, so normally the seller is the one that chooses the title company. Of course, because we built those relationships with you, the real estate agent, you're the one that is going to know. You're going to tell your customer, this is who I use, this is who I work with. They've done a good job in the past. And so normally they really don't know that they have a choice. And so normally the seller's agent is the one that chooses. But of course, we never thought we were going to have this type of market where buyers started paying for the owner's title policy. So it gave us a good opportunity to be able to work with a lot of the agents that wanted to give us the opportunity to work with Stewart Title because they were choosing Stewart Title.
Right. So just in case you're a buyer, you're a home buyer, or you're a buyer to be rather, and you have any questions about what title policy is and stuff, we'll get Patricia's information right now at the end of the podcast, and so you can talk to her and you can choose Stewart Title if you feel comfortable with Stewart Title. Okay, so like you said, in this market, a lot of the buyers are picking up the tab when it came to the title policy, which is great. I think it's good because it gives us more negotiations, more things to negotiate, and possibly more money for that seller to, take in their pockets. What happens when we have somebody that's going to sell a house, Patricia, and there's no will? Somebody passed away, and that person didn't leave a will.
So unfortunately, that happens so much. I don't know if it's just the market here in El Paso, the culture, and of course we always advise go get a will, and even if maybe sometimes they do have the will, but they never probated the will. So if 4 years have passed and they didn't probate the will, then we have to go to do another step, and we have to do the affidavit of heirship. And so that's another step that we can take, but of course it takes time because we need to make sure that we are accounting for all of the heirs. And of course, if the heirs passed away, now we have to look for their heirs and so on until we have everybody that was an heir that agrees to the sale of the house.
Right. But we have done a lot of those. I do a lot of, situations like that. A lot of clients that have come to me with no will or, with a deceased family member. And always, Stewart Title is very proactive about things that might come up later. I don't know if you remember, we had a deal a couple years back. It was 8 children of a marriage. One of those children had passed away, so now we had to go find the children or the grandchildren of this this person. So it took us a little bit longer
It sure
than it would have been. But at the end of the day, like Patricia said, we accounted for every single one of the heirs. We had a successful closing. And the new owner of the house is never going to encounter any issues with that because everybody was accounted for. And it might seem like a very, big task if you don't do this every day. But Patricia and I have been doing this for quite a few years, and we run into these situations all the time. I think in the past year we've done it like 4 or 5 times. Yes. So it's something very common that Patricia, of course, is very knowledgeable in handling this type of situation, and really anybody at Stewart Title. But it's good to know that just because there is no will is not the end of the world.
Correct.
We can still go through affidavit of heirships, probating the will, and whatever Stewart Title can help us out with. They are very, like I said, proactive at making sure that everything is accounted for, and we do have a successful closing. Another question that I'm often asked, Patricia, I have buyers that are going to sell their house, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to make, $60,000, $80,000, and I don't know how much taxes I need to pay." What do we do there, Patricia?
So have them not to worry if it is their homestead, because they do not get taxed on their homestead. If there's 2 sellers, they can make up to $250,000 each or $500,000 together before they get taxed.
Okay. So you mean from the sale of the house, right?
From the sale of the house.
Okay. So let's say I'm a single, homeowner. What are the what are the requisites that I have to have in order to qualify for this tax break? For instance, living in the house. What would those
Okay, so
requirements
you
be?
have to live in the house. You have to have it at central appraisal. It has to be your homestead.
Homestead, okay.
And even if it was just you by yourself, you can't make $500,000 after all the proceeds. And so if you're under the $500,000, the sale doesn't get reported.
Okay, perfect. So live in the house. Been living there for at least 2 years, I
At least
believe.
2 years,
2 years.
Haven't sold another house in the past 5 years.
Haven't sold another
Haven't
house in the
sold it.
five.
Haven't
Okay.
used it as a rental, and haven't used it as a business.
Okay, so if you're home, if you've been living there for at least 2 years, you haven't sold another house for the past 5 years, and claimed that as your homestead, you're claiming this one as your homestead. You haven't rented it in the past 2 years.
In the past 2 years.
2 years, and you're not doing it for business, then you will qualify for this. So let's say you are married, you're a married couple, and you sell the house, and you net $490,000. You will still pay no taxes, correct? Okay.
That is correct.
Now, how about for those buyers, for those sellers that are looking to sell another house that they have? For instance, they bought another house they bought a house before, and now they're living in the bigger house. Now they want to sell that other house that is not a homestead. How does that work?
Okay, so we have something else that we can offer those customers, which is the 1031 exchange.
Okay.
And with the 1031 exchange, they have to go through the 1031 exchange company. And of course, let everybody know when they're signing the contract that they're doing this 1031 exchange. Of course, it doesn't affect the buyer or the loan or anything like that. But the only thing is that we have to have those documents signed at closing, and the 1031 exchange company has to authorize the sale before we transfer any money. Which means now all that money all the proceeds are going to go to the 1031 exchange company.
Okay.
Nothing can go into the seller's account, because that's when they get taxed on it.
Okay.
So as long as all the proceeds are wired directly to the 1031 exchange company, and then what that means is that these sellers have 45 days to identify a property that they want to buy. So it's very interesting, and I love this because we do have a contact person, which you've already dealt with, Greg Learman. I mean, he's so accessible to be able to reach over the phone, over email, to help you and your customers.
Okay, so that is very important, guys, because a lot of the times you think, well, I'm going to sell my house and I'm only going to make, let's say, I don't know, $50,000, and I want to buy another house, but I'm going to pay, for instance, $20,000 in taxes. So if you go through the 1031 exchange, what Patricia just mentioned is, you can put this money in the 1031 exchange and then leave it there, identify another property within the next 45 days from your closing date, and put the money towards the down payment on that other property, and you do not have to pay capital gains because it goes from one property to another property. How long do we have, once we identify this property within the 45 days, how much time do we have before we close on this property?
I believe it's the 90 days.
9 days.
But the beauty of this is that it doesn't have to be another house. For the longest time, we were under the impression that it had to be a like property, so another house. But you can actually buy a commercial building, a warehouse, land,
Apartment complex, duplex. Nice. Well, that's great. Well, say you're in business, you want to sell your house so that you can buy a commercial property for your business. Well, guess what? If you do go through a 1031 exchange, if you can reach out to Patricia, we can get you guys set up for that. You don't have to pay property taxes on that because you're going to put it in that 1041. And once you identify your building, your next property, your next investment within the 45 days, that would be something that you can benefit from. Pretty much, right? Okay, yes. Perfect. So now, for instance, going back a little bit, I know that I'm going back to the when people have no will. What would you recommend they can do? Is there another thing they can do? For instance, I've heard about something called the ladybird deed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The ladybird deed is kind of new, probably in the past year and a half. So I did speak to an attorney to just make sure that I got more information in reference to the ladybird deed. So as long as the person is living, they can go ahead and have the attorney prepare that ladybird deed. It goes and transfers property to one of their heirs, one of their kids, or whoever they want to transfer the property to upon their death. So they get to stay in the house, they get to do everything in the house. Once they pass away, whoever they named on that Lady Bird deed, of course, it has to be recorded at the courthouse. The property transfers directly to them.
Okay.
The only thing with this is it's only going to be for that property. So if they have an estate, if they have other houses, then of course, we're going to recommend, if you're already going to go with the attorney to have the Lady Bird prepared, let the attorney know exactly what you have. That way they can prepare the correct document for you. And it saves a lot of headaches for just everybody, including the heirs.
Okay. So, and that Lady Bird deed doesn't come into effect until the person passes away, right? Okay. Okay. So if let's say, for instance, this person has a Lady Bird deed in place, they're on this specific property, there's no need for a will for this property or affidavit of heritage for this property, because basically this person gave this house to this other person in life. Now the rights to this house, the new person gets him post-mortem, right?
Correct.
Okay, once that person, so they can live until this house, until the day they die, have complete ownership of the house. Once they pass away, and then the next person could have
that
ownership.
is correct.
Okay.
And then of course, title company will pull it when we do our search and exam. And so we'll be aware that there was a Lady Bird deed on there.
Okay, perfect. And you said an attorney can, does it have to be a real estate attorney or a family attorney?
I always recommend a real estate attorney, and I always give you about 3 names. That way your customer can choose. And, they do their due diligence of looking at the reviews. And a lot of the times they do take our word for it. You are the expert. And so I'll refer you, this is the person that normally is doing a lot of these. So I just recommend, here's 3 names. Go ahead and pick, whoever you think it works best for your customer, of course. Sometimes it's like, I want somebody that's bilingual. And so we have to look for something like that, because we want our customers to be comfortable too. We want them to be able to speak the language, and that way they can communicate with the attorney.
Speaking of bilingual, do you have a lot of bilingual escrow officers in your company?
We do. We do have a couple of them, almost maybe 2 or 3 at every office.
Okay.
We know it's very important, and that's why we send that welcome package. And that's one of the questions we ask. Does your customer need a bilingual escrow officer?
Perfect.
We want to be ready and prepared for when your customer walks in the door.
Nice. So now we know that we can open title with you guys. You will do a title search, on any previous owners, anybody that might have ownership. And if there's any liens, IRS liens, we've had those IRS liens,
Yes.
child support liens. So once we have all these things and we're at the closing table and you guys are there, you have a bilingual person that can help us out. After that, the person goes away, they have their home, and they basically don't have to worry about anything else, right? It's been done, it's been closed, the title is guaranteed.
The title is guaranteed. And I have a lot of customers that come in, especially customers from Mexico, asking for their title, not realizing. So after closing, a couple of weeks after closing, of course, at closing, we record all the documents at the courthouse. About maybe 6 to 8 weeks, the new buyer gets their owner's title policy in the mail, along with a recorded warranty deed stating that they're now the owners of that property.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, I think there's more to be said about all these things. I know we have a little bit of a time crunch here. We want to make sure that we cover as much as we can. But is there anywhere where they can get more information about the 1031? If they're, whether you're another realtor or a buyer, a seller, or just somebody that is curious about this, do you guys have like a little workshop or something?
Yes, and I'm happy to announce that, because of course with the pandemic we couldn't get the speakers here, and it's not the same when you do a virtual presentation. So Stewart Title is really happy to announce that Greg Learman, he is the attorney and vice president, I believe, or president of Asset Preservation, the 1031 Exchange Company. He is going to be here on September the 6th. He's actually going to do a free 1-hour CE credit, which is, I think, for electives. And it's going to be at Gepar. We are going to start registering and getting everybody in about 3 o'clock. His class will start at 3:30 to 4:30.
Okay. So that's September 6th?
September 6th. On the 7th, for those people in commercial, he's actually doing the CCIM presentation as well. And he's also doing that 1031 exchange class as well.
Perfect.
And that's going to be September the 7th at the Starlight Event Center.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
Super cool.
So
Nice.
he's gonna be there, and like I said, you've dealt with him before, and he's so down to earth.
Very
He gives you
accessible.
his contact information, so it's just like another avenue for people to know. You know what? Edgar knows who to contact. I have these questions. He can answer those questions. A lot of the times, I refer you directly to him because he's the one, of course, like now we don't know any changes that have come up. So it's going to be really good to have him here in September.
Nice. And there's a lot of things that go into a title, guys. Patricia and I have been working together for the past 17, 18 years. And something that we just encountered a couple of months ago, we had a house that in the listing agreement, the seller had mentioned that he was a U.S. citizen. And it happened so that the wife was actually a foreign citizen. She was a Canadian citizen. And we had to go again through accountings and attorneys and stuff because certain taxes need to be paid if that person happens to be a foreign national. And in the border, we don't deal a lot with Canadians, but we do deal a lot with foreign nationals from Mexico. And Patricia, she's bilingual, obviously. And so if you guys have any questions, if you want to know if you have to pay taxes, if you're a foreign national, and I'm going to switch a little bit to Spanish. Si usted es ciudadano mexicano y va a vender su propiedad y no sabe si va a pagar impuestos sobre esta propiedad o de qué manera lo van pues sí, va a pagar estos impuestos de la venta, de los capital gains de esta propiedad. Patricia es una excelente fuente de información para cualquier duda que tenga. Entonces, tuvimos una situación similar con unos, en este caso fue una pareja, el esposo era ciudadano norteamericano y la esposa era canadiense. A la hora de vender la casa tuvimos que hacer unos papeles extras con un contador, con abogados, ese rollo, y al final de cuentas pudimos solucionar el problema sin tener que pagar taxes que no se tuvieron que pagar. Entonces todo fue legítimamente, todo fue legal y afortunadamente se pudo resolver esto en muy poco tiempo sin tener que haber hecho eso. Obviamente si hubiéramos sabido desde un principio, Stewart Title lo hubiera hecho desde un principio para evitar que esto pasara a final de cuentas, pero sin embargo eso nos dimos cuenta ya casi al cierre, pero afortunadamente en cuestión de días pudieron solucionar ese asunto. Entonces, como les digo, Patricia es bilingüe, igual que yo. Cualquier pregunta que tengan al respecto, si quieren vender su propiedad, son ciudadanos no norteamericanos, estamos aquí para ayudarle. Now I'm going to say it in French. No, just kidding. So my French is very abstract. No, I'm just kidding. No. So anyway. So, anything else you want to add, Patricia?
Just we love our El Paso community. We're very proud to say that we were the title company of the year for what was it? The city
magazine.
The best of El Paso.
Oh, best of El Paso.
The best of El Paso, and right now we are in the running as well for best of the border.
Nice.
So,
nice. Congratulations.
And we thank all of our customers, the relationships that we've built, because it just makes it a whole lot better to be able to go through these transactions, especially the difficult ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And Patricia and I have, a lot of horror stories, and fortunately we have always, closed them successfully. So, thank you so much for watching, guys. I cannot, thank Patricia enough for, allowing me the honor of having her here in our podcast in our humble home at the Nerd headquarters. And I don't know if you noticed, but we're twinning our shoes. It was just, it just so happened like coincidence. We didn't plan it. But anyway, guys, if you guys need to get a hold of Patricia, how can they contact you?
You can contact me at 915-443-2302. Or my email, which is going to be my name, patricia.martinez@stewart.com. And I believe you're going to post the 1031 exchange flyer, and the flyer has my contact information as well.
Perfect. So look at this post, guys. Right next to this video right here, you're going to have the information to the 1031 exchange class. Now, is this open to the public?
It's open to the public.
Okay. Yes, So again, if you want to, have more information, you're an investor or an investor in the making, that'll be a great opportunity for you to go out there and get to learn the product and also network with some of our local realtors. So Again, Patricia, thank you so much. I think I drank more than you, so
I know, I need to drink up.
so we're gonna finish this bottle, guys. So we're gonna have
It's
to.
really
This,
good.
it's in a good, yeah.
It is.
So it's actually we buy it at Sombra Antigua. They have live music on the weekends. This is not a commercial for Sombra Antigua or for Stewart Title. I'm just, we're just local. I like to embrace our local stuff. So great wine. If you want to go hang out there, it's super cool. You'll probably see me there at least every other weekend. But anyways, really, really good. So again, thank you so much for listening, guys. Hopefully this information is beneficial for you and useful. If you have any questions, you could always get a hold of Patricia directly with her information, or you can call me. You guys know my number. Patricia, thank you so much. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
And thank you, guys. And as always, stay nerdy, my friends.